Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where we look at another member of my classic computer collection. And today's computer, you probably wouldn't classify it as a classic, but it is interesting and nevertheless. It's this little lunchbox size, compact SLT 286. So let's check it out. Compaq was a serious competitor to IBM in the office computer stakes. In 1982, this company had cloned the IBM PC BIOS to almost complete compatibility and hence brought to the market one of the first true PC compatibles, the Compaq Portable. Compaq wasn't just any old knockoff clone company though. They had a loyal dealer network and made sure their products were quality items that had more features and innovations than their IBM counterparts at similar or cheaper prices. For example, in 1986, they introduced a clone computer sporting the Intel 386 CPU, leaving IBM playing catch-up with their own 386 machine 7 months later. The Compaq SLT 286, released in late 1988, followed this tradition of innovation. Clamshell laptops had been around for a while, but the SLT 286 had significant innovations not found on similar laptops at the time. According to what I've read, it was the first battery-powered laptop to include a built-in hard drive, and it incorporated an LCD screen which could display the new video standard introduced by the IBM PS2 range, that is, Video Graphics Array, or VGA. It was also the first laptop to have a detachable keyboard. So time now for a look at my Compaq SLT 286. I got it in this black bag. It had been languishing outside in a garage for many years and the bag was in pretty poor condition, but it managed to clean up reasonably well, although it's still a little bit scruffy. So here you can see the numeric keypad. I've just taken out the power supply unit. And inside the middle of the bag here is the computer itself. So this just shows you how thick it is. It's a bit like a large lunchbox really, and about that heavy. Little carry handle there. Quite a neat looking unit though. Here you can see it from the front. There's a 1.44 megabyte floppy disk drive there. There's a hibernate button if you want to put it to sleep, and lights for the power and the disk drives. So here's what it looks like from the side. Nothing really to note there except perhaps that little vertical slot on the right. Some models had a modem, and just where that is. So swinging around the back, you can see there's a flap there over all the ports just to keep things looking neat and tidy. So with a little bit of effort you can pull this up and you can see the ports there. So we've got a port for an external keyboard, one for an external storage module. We've got a serial interface, a parallel port, the VGA port, and finally we come to the desktop expansion bus. So we spin it around to the front again. Nothing much to see on the other side. So if we pull these two clips forward, we can then open up the case and you can see it in its entirety. So there you have it. Quite a small screen, but that's about the right, or a typical size for its time. And there you can see the keyboard, nice compact unit. Just zoom up on that, you will see you can actually convert part of the keyboard into a numeric pad through pushing a sequence of keys. Little arrow cursor keys down the bottom right there. Now this is a bit tricky holding the camera, but I'll just try and detach this keyboard so you can see what it looks like when it comes out. And so what you can do is just place the keyboard down there if you want a more comfortable typing angle. There are little feet at the back that you can flip out, and which allows the keyboard to stand up at an angle, but it's a little tricky to do that, to get those out while I'm holding this camera. but it is very comfortable to type on, particularly when those feet are out and it's sitting at a bit of an angle. There you can see the battery bay, and this has got a battery in it. It's a very flat battery, it doesn't charge up, but I've just left it in there because rather than have a gaping hole, it fills that space quite nicely. But and there you can see it when it's taken out. And just coming up, you can see two slider controls there. One's for brilliance and the other is for contrast. The screen itself is a grayscale screen, and it just shows how the keyboard slides back into place. So all in all, a pretty handsome looking machine and very easy on the eye. Now this shot shows the PSU plugged into the unit, and there it is, just a brick really. A couple of lights in it. One goes green when the power's on. The other light there lights up when the battery's recharging. In my case it never lights up because the battery never recharges. This just shows an accessory that I've got with the machine. This is a numeric keypad, and this plugs into the laptop keyboard. So it's very handy if you are doing a lot of numeric processing and you just want to bang numbers in. You can connect that up to the keyboard. Now this shows the machine opened up, and you can see the motherboard there. It's not easy to open this machine. There are a number of steps you've got to go through. And why would you want to do it? Well, there is really just one reason: to replace the flat Dallas clock calendar battery chip that you can see there in the middle of the screen. So this is what I had to do, except I couldn't replace this chip because I found that the chip was actually soldered onto the motherboard. I needed to do something because these machines, if that chip is flat, they just don't work properly. They recognize the floppy drive as a 720K drive, which it's not, and it is hard to, or you can't set up your configurations, your CMOS configurations. So I really had to do something about this chip. I couldn't take it out, and I did consider desoldering it from the board, but after looking at the very fine soldering and the tiny traces that were around that area, I decided my bumbling attempts would simply destroy the board. So instead I opted to break into the Dallas chip with it sitting there in situ, find the battery terminals and connect a lithium battery up to it. At first I heat shrunk some tubing around the lithium battery, but later on I replaced that with a proper holder. So it now works well. That just sits there inside the machine. Lithium battery does its job, and I shouldn't need to open it up again for a few years. If you've got one of these machines and you want to do this fix, I have got a couple of articles on my website pertaining to this. The first one shows how to get into the machine, to get to the motherboard and the chip, and it's a little bit fiddly, so that will step you through the process. And the second article details what I did with the chip itself and how to get to those terminals. So if you've got a machine, the Dallas battery's flat, so it's not working properly, you might want to try this fix. So now it's time to put the machine through its paces. And like all these Intel machines, the first thing it does is check the memory. And this one hasn't got much memory. It's got the bare minimum, which is 640K. So there's no expansion in this one, although you can expand them considerably to at least 12 megabytes, maybe more. So there you can see the disk lights going on, floppy and hard disk. And here we are with good old MS-DOS. This has got MS-DOS 6.2 on it, which is a much later DOS than it would have had when the units were first sold in 1988. They probably came with MS-DOS 3.3, I'd imagine. I've got a useful program though that comes with 6.2. This is Microsoft Interlink, and it lets you communicate with another IBM PC compatible and use the other PC compatible as a disk drive, and I tended to use this a lot before I fix that battery to get some software onto the machine. So let's just now go through our directories and I'll load up a diagnostic program. This program's called QA Plus, and it's one that I've shown in some earlier videos with my PC compatible machines. Quite a good program for showing what the computer has and also to benchmark the speed. This gives you a look at what the monochrome screen looks like. It's not too bad, it's reasonably readable. So this shows some information about our particular computer. So you can see no expanded memory there. We've got a 20 megabyte hard drive though, 1.44 megabyte floppy drive. So let's run a few tests and we'll just see how fast our little machine is. And actually for a 286 it's pretty fast. It's 12 megahertz, which is quite speedy. And when you consider the fact that it's a small computer, it's portable, and at that sort of speed it would have been an attractive unit for the businessman on the go. It's not too big, it wasn't a luggable, so you could carry it around reasonably easily and do your business computing where and when you wanted. Okay, so we'll leave our benchmarks now and we'll go and just exit out of this program. Now this computer hasn't got enough memory for the likes of Windows, and besides that, Windows 3.0, 3.1, which is really the first usable version of Windows, didn't come out until a few years after this machine was released. So what users might have typically had on this machine with their MS-DOS 3.3 was some sort of shell program just to make file management a little easier. They might have had something like XT Pro, for example, and here it is here on this machine. So you can see I've got a few files on there, a few games and some applications. And if we put a floppy disk in the drive, just like that, we can use XT Pro to check what files we have on that drive. So we'll log drive A, and you'll see some directories coming up showing what's on that disk. Now here's another feature of these machines. So we have our laptop showing battle chess on its monochrome screen. I've got this plugged into an external monitor, and when I push the right combination of keys, here's what we get. We get colour. And this is something that doesn't seem to be documented that well on the web, that this machine, when you plug an external monitor into it, it's not monochrome, it's actually colour. And although you can see the aspect ratio is not quite right, you are getting quite a good colour picture there. So if you had an external monitor and you had an external keyboard, you could plug them both into your laptop and have essentially what would have been a full-size desktop experience back in 1988. Here you can see the external screen with XT Pro on it, and you can see that's a pretty clear image, as is this one showing the benchmarking figures. So, manuals. What manuals? I actually don't have a manual, but I do have a photocopied document of a manual. Interestingly, this came with the computer, so what happened to the real manual, I'm not sure, but this is a full photocopy of the manual that would have come with the machine. As manuals go, it's pretty good. Goes through the standard components, talks about battery operations and what to do if the battery starts getting low. There's quite a large section on that. How to conserve power, that's a whole chapter. How to modify the default values using the setup program, which comes on a disk. That's also a whole chapter's worth. What to do when you're travelling with it, how to maintain the unit, and appendices which show physical and operating specifications and what those external connectors do. So yeah, nice helpful manual. This just shows how to add some of those memory modules into your machine. So my final thoughts on the Compaq SLT 286. Well, I really like it. I like the design. I think it's snazzy. It's got a certain amount of flair. I love the way that you can just detach that keyboard, the fact that you can plug up a colour monitor to the machine. It's light. It would have looked pretty trendy and pretty high-tech back in the day when it was first released in 1988. The one brickbat I would give Compaq would be for that soldered-in Dallas battery chip buried deep in the bowels of the computer. Now that's an example of planned obsolescence, because there was no way that chip was designed to be replaced. So obviously these machines, at least in Compaq's eye, had a very limited lifespan. But this one still lives. So there you have it, the Compaq SLT 286. Well, thanks for joining me. Keep well, and as always, see you in the next video.